they'll lynch you. But he did, and he laughs.
Yes, everybody. Russ and the West Ham Network. Hope you are all safe and well from you and here. Where the bloody hell have you been? But don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Saturday night's all right for fighting. And it does seem that's the case. We reported earlier this afternoon a story by Jacob Steinberg, an article talking about the sort of the power struggle at West Ham between Tim Steinden and David Moyes, which is very interesting because it's from Jacob Steinberg, who we know has a path to Mr. Sullivan. And obviously we lost 3-1 to Rennes, Stade Rennes today as well, which was Barrel of Laughs, wasn't it? Speaking of Barrel of Laughs, he had to do a watch along. No, mate.
That was tough, man, and I do apologise for anyone that did watch that today because I was left dumbfounded, actually, to be honest. It was a hard watch. It was a hard watch.
It was a hard watch. And do you know why it was a hard watch as well? Because West Ham put fucking mid-rolls throughout the whole thing.
Honestly,
so,
mate, it was non-stop. And some of them were like 25 seconds long. And a couple of the times, it was when one of the times was when we went on the attack, and I was like, Paqueta plays the ball through to Bowen. Oh, I don't know, because there's an advert talking about fucking Sudocreme. And I was like, I don't want Sudocreme. Like, what the fuck's going on?
Honestly, it's like, it just shows you some little things like that. It just show you they really don't understand YouTubey stuff. It's like, you can do your pre-rolls, no probs, but mid-rolls during a game, and then they did their little sort of ad break in the middle where they played like the shirt videos, and it was really cheesy.
I had to eat my dinner in that time. I was so glad I had to nip away from the computer.
Poor old Rufus was in some backs, somewhere in East London doing the comms. I felt really sorry for Rufus.
Honestly, mate,
anyway, let's you and me can sit there and moan all day. We can, but I thought, well, he actually volunteered to come on.
Let's bring on the king of moaners.
All hail the king!
For as long as we've known each other, I probably have been the king of moaners, to be fair.
I'm only joking, mate.
It was a tough one today, wasn't it?
Very tough. I kind of was watching the game, and I had the watch along in the background, and looked like he was very close to throwing himself off the roof. It was.
Do you know what? On that as well, and I do apologise to people because I know people tune in to have some form of excitement, but I just can't hide it. I literally can't, and I can't get up for something. I can't even make a joke about something if it's just not enjoyable.
The trouble is, there was nothing to get excited about, mate.
No, I know, but then sometimes, you know, if you do a YouTube channel, people want excitement and you can create something. I just can't do it. I'm just sitting there and I was just like, I was just actually looking at the clock thinking, when is it 90 minutes? Because I'm really hungry. I've just demolished the dinner and I need another dinner. And I'm like, oh my God.
So, 2 dinner Anton tonight. Yeah. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Cyril Frey, hope you're well, mate. Did I miss much, or was it his usual tactics, or just Rennes were very good? Rennes were very good, I thought, but do
you know what? Do you know what, Russ? It just proved what having midfielders that are dynamic on the ball can do for you. They were so good. Like, they was just the way they used the ball, the way they eat us on the break. Like, it just shows you that when a team is drilled properly and you've got technically gifted players, like, you can do it. Like, we were a far better team when Paqueta was on the pitch.
Oh, definitely.
And I think we've got to give a big shout out to him because he's literally, at the moment, he's the only good thing going for West Ham. I genuinely feel like he is the only good thing that we've kind of got in our locker at the minute.
You're totally right. He to me was almost like he was seen to be the only one in the first half, or for the first 60 minutes where he went off, whatever, who was using it as a pre-season. You know, he was running around like a lunatic. You know, he was trying to get involved. He was geeing everyone up, pushing everyone up. You know, making sure we're trying to do a high press. He was, and there were some lovely touches.
And that's what highlights the issue about the transfer market, like the situation we're in, the situation we're finding ourselves in. Because when you've got someone like Paqueta, and the man that shall not be named has left, it's an opportunity to unleash what we think we have maybe been missing in that midfield element. And you've mentioned it, Stade Rennes. Who were we playing? Rennes, sorry.
Yeah.
I was thinking Rem there.
You're thinking Will still, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. And when you look at their midfield, it was the one touch the one touch play. It was like the triangle, wasn't it? Like, you know, 2 players, one triangle, 3 players, one triangle, and then they were playing the ball and moving round in circles. But there was one particular player in the first half. I think it was Doku. I think his name was
Jeremy Doku. Up front.
There was another guy in the middle of the park. He looked up and there was a few runs they were making, and he thought, I see a gap, and he went and he got through the gap. That's the one thing we did not do that whole game. That's why actually during this game, I think, Dan, you were in, and I don't know if you missed my comment or not. I was like, that's why I want Gallagher.
Yeah. The trouble is that is that you stick the rein. Someone like Moyes, because of the way he is, he'll just stick the reins on him. He just will. He just won't have it, will he? He doesn't like that. You see it when players go a little rogue and they press and whatever. He won't have it. He's all about us. I say it to you lot all the time, so I'm blue in the face. But he's all about shape. It's not really about it's not really about a tactic. It's just about keeping your shape and making it hard. Yeah. Well, we kept our shape today, and fuck me, was it easy to get through our back line. And our midfield was non-existent.
It was the midfield, wasn't it?
Non-existent. Whenever they hit us on the break, I was like, we're playing free midfield. We're playing 3 centre mids today, right? But they'd hit us on the break and there'd be no one there. And like Downs would be 10 yards. And I'm not digging him out, but I'm just, just using him as an example. Like he's 10 yards behind the play. Souček's, he's out on the wing, and Paqueta is up there with a striker because he's trying to make things happen. So it's non-existent. It's like, where have they gone? And then as a result, then the back 4 have to press. They all have to shift up because they've got to make it hard. But the first goal came from that. It was Souček made a mistake, didn't press the ball. Defenders didn't know what to do, so they just had a dig, and that ends up in the back of the net. It's schoolboy stuff, and it's all because it's keep the shape. It's rather than press the player, it's just keep the shape, make it hard. But it doesn't make it hard, as it's proved for the last 2 years.
And you're right there. Like, and I think today really did highlight, because I actually thought Downs had an okay game. Souček did not, and that highlighted that today. But when he took that shot, I was like, I must have been. I was like, that's gone in. Is that fucking gone in? Has that gone in? And I kept looking at it. It's gone in. And it was the way that Areola reacted to it as well. And
he didn't cover himself.
No, not at all.
I know, but look, Russ is waiting to jump in. Go on, Russ. Go on, give me your thoughts.
No, at all. No, I think the last couple of games he's letting a couple of shit goals. That's all I'm saying. But I mean, I think it's proved a few things. It's proved that to anyone, if you were under any doubt, we can't go into the season with Downs and Souček as our 2. That's for one. Secondly, we need another centre back, because I think our defence fell apart when Agard and Zuma came off today. Ogbonna and Kira are not, and obviously they wouldn't necessarily both play together. It would be Agard +1 or Zuma +1. But on that point, though, quickly, I think, Dan, you said it in the chat as well earlier on, like Ogbonna really looks slow.
He's got his legs. His legs have gone.
Yeah.
So Oggie's big part of Oggie's game. Sorry to jump in, but a big part of his game has always been to press the player, and he's had the legs to then get back. He was always more of a stopper. He'd always step in and try and stop the ball before it was played in behind the lines. But because his legs, he ain't got the legs now. If he does make the mistake, to get back, and he got caught 2 or 3 times, like in the space of like 5 minutes.
And I get it's pre-season. And I think when I ended the game, my concern about, even though I know it's preseason, it's designed for a reason, and Ren changed wholeheartedly loads of the players in the second half. We started making substitutes. I get that, but you need to see, with 2 games or now 1 game to go until the Premier League season starts, you need to see some form of shape, something starting to build. But in actual fact, someone said in the chat, like, I couldn't even fucking tell you who's going to start in goal. I couldn't tell you who. I think really the only couple of positions we know who are definites will be Agard, Zuma.
Yeah,
I know we can go through that in a minute. Paqueta, and Bowen, and Emerson. Well, I mean, is he though? I know Creswell was today, but is he? Like, is he?
He is. Unless Trufek comes in or someone like that. But again, he won't throw him in, so it will be Emerson playing left back.
But the point is, like, you don't actually know what we're doing, and I'll be honest, the players didn't look like they knew what was going on, and that is the pure honesty of today's game.
The biggest problem, obviously, is that centre midfield trio. Right, that is the big problem. We've got more than just the issue of there being a bit of pace in there or someone having a bit of bite in the tackle. We literally have one player that can pretty much do it all, but then the others can't do any of it. Souček's passing is horrendous. His pace he has no pace. He cannot track back. Downs, I felt for today because he was doing the job of two men, because he was really having to cover Souček. But other than Paqueta, there's nothing in there. But then you become so heavily reliant on someone like Paqueta that then he ends up doing this thing where he's trying to spray so many passes here, there and everywhere. He's doing the job that, say, for instance, if you're smart and you actually use Fornals where he's supposed to be played and you stick him in there next to him, then you've got two players that are technically gifted and can spray passes here, there and everywhere, and they help each other out.
And I think 5 minutes at the end of the first half, Fornals drifted in.
Yeah,
and there was like a reasonable spell of play. Again, it's just something clicked in your mind. And I'm just remembering it now, and I'm thinking, yeah, he came in and then he dropped out onto the left, and he was being quite, there was a bit of creativity because you could actually see Paqueta going, but you could see Paqueta crying out for quick 1-2s, and he was all over the midfield looking for it, but couldn't find it. A couple of times he got it with Emerson, a couple of times he got it with Benny, but not a lot.
If you get yourself a settled six and then you stick someone like Fornals next to Paqueta, that midfield becomes instantly better, because Paqueta will have chemistry with someone who is as good on the ball as he is and can pass the ball the same way he can, and you can play off that. It allows then Paqueta to make forward runs and support the striker. Paqueta's having to drop deep constantly to come and get the ball because Souček can barely pass 2 yards, and Downs is being expected to sit in there as a six between the defence and the midfield and just link up. So Paqueta is then, the distance between Paqueta and the striker becomes so big that then you don't create chances. And the biggest thing that hurt in the first half was there was no pace on the wings. You're playing Fornals out wide. You're taking away your ability to go past people. You can't run at anyone, and that's not a knock on Fornals. He's a centre mid. He lacks the pace of a winger. He's got all the ability in the world, but wingers need pace. You see Bowen when he come on the second half, he instantly injected it. And I know I'm probably going to get absolute pelters for this, but Benny, for everything he does well, he does a million other things so poorly.
He was horrendous today. Yeah, he wasn't good at all.
He'll do the hard stuff. That's what the bit that makes me laugh about him is he'll do the hard stuff where he'll go past someone, but then he'll try an extra step over or he'll take a heavy touch, or then when his ball comes in, it's like 10 yards past the box.
It goes to the keeper or something. It's just wasted opportunities. Yeah,
he can finish from 12 yards if the ball's not moving, but he can't finish. The amount of chances he had today, it's either not enough power or too much power. You can see why Harvey Barnes was a target. You can see why he was a target because Benny just lacks the pace of a winger. I've said for ages he's a 10. He's a 10. Yeah. He's not a winger. And so that first half, you were playing with 2 non-wingers. Then you were playing with 2 defensive mids, one of which isn't a defensive mid. And then you're playing with this bloke who's just expected to just do so much work. And it's one of the reasons why Paqueta stands out as well, is because he literally has to do everything.
Which is probably part of the reason why during most of last season, he should not be named, which stood out, because he was doing a lot. And then it was only towards the second half of the season that Paqueta sort of got up to speed. And the two of them were the only ones who were really, week in, week out, were standing out, weren't they? They were always, man of the matches or pretty much, or, along the top. And you might get occasionally Benny might pull one out the bag, or Bowie might get a couple. But it was, for me, it was just worrying that particularly when Paqueta almost pushed up and almost went 2 up top, really, the gap between the forwards and the midfield was just like, and Ren were just running through it. And then we know we've got, particularly, we know Soufal is possibly one of the slowest fullbacks in the Premier League. It will be this year. And he was just getting done all the time down that left hand, or down our right hand side, their left hand side. I was like, fuck. I was going.
It highlighted all the weaknesses, though, didn't it?
Yeah,
it really highlighted all the weaknesses.
Yeah. And that's the concern, again, to be respectful of the fact we know it was pre-season, we understand that, but when it's so close to the season starting, to have so many what weaknesses are, I'm currently reading Billy McKinley's kind of post-match comments about the game, and doesn't even read well, to be honest. Like he's disappointed, and he says, "Oh, we needed that. Like we needed that performance." It's a little bit like he's admitting we needed that to prove how far we are from where we want to be. Like that's what I take from when I read that interview. I take it that Billy McKinley's gone, that's a good test for our lads. We're not happy. We know where we need to be, but we're still a far away from it. Like it's blatantly, it's key in the eye. And then Dan, it's right. Like for Benny's he's wasted through that left hand side. Like you crying out for him to be put through the middle. Like if you want a bit of creativity, something else, like put him right through. In that whatever, just give him some more opportunities, because right now there's no end product. Like he'll
be afforded more space as a 10 as well. Because he's got that trickery, he's got quick feet, and if you take the pressure of having to cross the ball, I do think when he has to pass short or through balls along the ground, he is far more accurate. Yeah. He's just an awful crosser of the football, and he always just tries to do too much when he goes past a player. The issue that you've got in any Moyes system as well is that he prefers to play with, what I like to call sort of inverted wingers, where he plays them, he doesn't play their strong foot on the side they play. Bowen's naturally left-footed. Benny's naturally right-footed, so he plays them on the opposite ring, really, to what they should be. See, for me, this is something that needs to change. If you're going to start playing a system where you're going to play Paqueta off Scamacca, for instance, Scamacca is going to thrive with balls into that sort of, 12 to 6 yard area, high, low, and that's how he's going to score. You're playing these inverted wingers, they're going to cut back onto their strong foot. That's time that you allow defenders to sort themselves out. You look at their second goal, lovely ball, first time, straight in. Defenders have no chance to react because of how quick it is. We never have the ability to do that because we've got these wingers that have to cut in all the time.
That's the funny thing. I remember in their second goal, I think as West Ham fans, or probably as any football fan, the first thing you do is look for whose fault was that. But in actual fact, it was a very good footballing goal. The second one in particular. Yeah. It was like you said, it was up over the top. Emerson, if you had to say anything, slightly caught out, but not really. He was watching his man. He probably didn't expect the guy to take hit the cross on the volley first time across the goal, but that's where any striker wants it. And the way the striker took it, it was Oggy, but I don't really know any other defender that probably would have got across that, to be honest. The striker took it really well, and it was a good goal.
Right. He timed his run. Ironically, just before he'd skied a shot. He just skied on, weren't it? It's like, oh, fucking what an idiot. And he just wanders in. But it's the same with the third goal, really. Although it was an own goal, again, it was a great cross into the corridor of uncertainty. And then Oggy sort of like,
but they were doing that all afternoon.
Yeah, I
think that ball that came in that Oggy hit in the back of the net was actually from the outside of the guy's right foot. I'm sure it was. I'm sure he was curling it from his awkward foot, and it was a great ball. And I think if Oggy wasn't there, it was 50-50 whether Areola would have got to it, because there was a player from Rennes behind it.
Fabianski, wasn't it?
What?
It was Fabianski, because they swapped goalkeepers half time, didn't
they? Fab was in goal for the
second. I didn't even know that.
Fab was in goal for that one.
I actually didn't know that. I genuinely did not know that. I did not know that. Are you joking me?
No, I promise you. Yeah.
I didn't even report that. Every time he had the ball, I thought it was. There you go. That shows you. That shows you how off the ball it was. Listen, can I just address this comment from Irish Tommy? I said in the last season I was short-sighted to keep Moyes and get a lot of crap for it. I said fans were too giddy about the cup win. I'm seeing it dawn on them now. I expected all of this. Tommy, I do agree with you. I do. I think you were absolutely there in terms of that. But the one thing I didn't agree with was getting rid of Moyes last season. So, I was happy the club stuck by Moyes last season, because I feel like it was a gamble either way. However, at the end of the season, I would have wished him farewell and thank you very much, because what we're seeing now is proof in the pudding that things are not going to turn into the way we're doing it. Sorry, Russ, go.
No, but I said you're totally right. That was it. I mean, I think we were all on the apprehension, or the assumption rather, that was going to happen. That he was going to go out on a high, go around, do his dad dancing, and then go off into the distance. Particularly, obviously, with the director of football coming through. Or more technical. He wasn't called the technical director at that time. He was the director of football, but he then said, "I'm not going anywhere." And we were like, "Oh shit, okay, well maybe he's earned it because he won a cup." But I think we're particularly in light of the Jacob Steinberg article today, which, I mean, we all know there's a power struggle, but to come out from a reliable, West Ham source, so to speak, and someone who is in conversations with the owner and whatnot. In hindsight, I think it was a mistake, or it's not a mistake. I think it was the worst option. There was 3 options. Moyes goes, Moyes stays and sees out his contract, or Moyes is offered a new contract, and they picked the worst option. I think even if it was Moyes, if we'd had the situation now where Steidten comes in and Moyes has still got 2-3 years left in his contract, we wouldn't be in this position in terms of transfers, because Moyes is seeing, and we said this in the chat, for me, Moyes is seeing now. He's seeing, it's all about results for him now, because he knows any bad results, a run of bad results is out in his ear. And he wants to see out his contract and have and potentially have a new contract at the end of it. Who knows, But so that's where this disparity is, and you've got these 2 philosophies where you've got Tim Steidten, who's very much for the future and building, and obviously Nobes is into that as well, and we're all into it as well, because that's what we want. We want a team to progress, and we want a team to develop, and we like to see players who are brought in who grow, and become really good players. And I think that's the issue we've got now and what I'm hoping is today, one of them's got to step back, innit? One of them's got to step back and the other one take the lead. Do you know what I mean?
But let's be brutally honest though, Russ, that's not going to happen. We know that's not going to happen because in theory, though, this article, particularly the one today that came out, and I said it in the group chat, I put a voice note in because the article in particular is kind of not pissed me off because Steinberg's written it. Like, it's the fact that we all know the connections he's got, and the rumours are that the club's leak right now is Sully again. And if he is leaking it's disgraceful. So I'm not making this. I am not categorically saying it was him. But if it's him and it's coming from him, then it's a disgrace. And that's where it starts from. So, you can't, I understand. I'm trying to kind of weigh it all up. You can't fault Moyes for being who he is and what he wants to do. You can't fault Steidten from doing what he is and what he wants to do. If the man at the top is not dealing with that shit and telling one or the other, you need to listen to the other guy. And this is I'll stipulate everyone's job roles. This is what you do. And this is your job defined role. This is what you have to do. And if he's allowing them to disagree and then potentially leaking that to the newspapers, what the fuck is going on at the club in terms of the top level? That's my concern now. Yeah. Why the hell are they even deal with it? I don't care if you pay one of them off, just fucking pay someone off.
Yeah, but this is typical Sullivan, though, isn't it? He don't like sacking people, so it's like so what he does is he just throws these little breadcrumbs out there and expects one of them to make a decision. So then he can't be held accountable. That's what he's like. He's always been like. He's always been like this. But he basically what he's done there is he's just fed this story to a reliable source who he's known for talking to. That's got released to the press, and it now forces these 2 men to do. One of 3 things is going to happen. They're either going to sit down like grown-ups and hash it out and come to an agreement. Moyes is going to either get sacked or walk. Well, he's hoping he's going to walk because he doesn't want to sack him. Or Stein's going to grow so frustrated he's going to go, fuck you. The thing that is so frustrating to me about this is that when Steidten was appointed, I felt like this was a really exciting step in West Ham going forward, because it was a new way of doing things, especially where the transfer window was concerned, recruitment, and that was going to improve. We were going to start actually acting like a club of our size and start protecting ourselves in the transfer window, buy players at a certain price, sell on for good value, so then we don't end up where we're at the moment with these financial fair play issues, because we're always going to be balancing the books because of the way we've negotiated in the transfer window. And you would have expected that with a man like this being announced and appointed, that the club would have just gone in this new direction. But it almost looks as though Sullivan and Noble have maybe sat there and gone, this guy's the man, let's bring him in. He's one for the future. He's going to do a great job. And Moyes wasn't told about it, because now Moyes is sitting there going, why the fuck is this geezer doing the job I want to do? He doesn't want any of the players I want. This is wrong. But then at the same time, why are we bowing down to a man that's got less than 12 months left on his contract? Let this man do his job for the betterment of the club for the foreseeable future. Because Moyes, I hate to tell you this, sunshine, you ain't making it past fucking November. So it doesn't matter who you want, because by the time January comes around, there's a new manager in place. He might not want these players.
True. But from Moyes' perspective, that's why he's doing what he's doing, because he wants to stay in the job. So I know from us, from being West Ham fans, we're very much, we see them, but from his perspective, it's all about results for him now, and so that's where the difference is because
surely a man who's managed over 1,000 Premier League games is entering the last year of his contract, and the new one ain't on the table after he just won a trophy for a club that hasn't won one in 40 plus years, still hasn't got one on the table. He must
but there's probably some element of discussions behind the scenes which is going right, go and prove it again. You know, I said this beforehand, you know, if you're one game away from being sacked with 5 games to go in the Premier League, I think it was something like that, was it not? Then he won the Fulham game and then obviously won the Europa Conference League, to then suddenly being like to find ourselves in this situation. I want to quickly address this comment. I don't agree with that. I actually don't agree with that. I actually think if Moyes had full control over the situation, West Ham would be safe. We might not progress, but West Ham would be safe. Yeah, and it would be boring.
I don't necessarily agree with that, Ant.
No, but I think we have enough in terms of, I'm talking like if Moyes had full control, so went out and he bought McTominay and he bought even fucking Harry Maguire. The point I'm trying to make is we would actually have some new recruits in who've got the Premier League experience, which not everybody wants, and I think we would do okay. I don't think we would be in a relegation battle. Genuinely, I think it might be 10, 12, 13, 14. Go back to 14th place again.
All those, actually be realistic though. All those players he's looking at, they've got Premier League experience and might play international football. None of them inject anything into this team that we don't already have. They don't inject pace. Their technical ability is no better than anything we've already got. Then none of them are exciting, mate. They're just safe players.
Yeah, exactly. Safe. That's exactly what it is.
But that's not.
Moyes, I know. No, I totally agree with you. But Moyes is going for safe players. We did the whole, and I think the trouble is because of last year as well, buying like not 8 players and buying all these foreign players, and they took forever to bed in all that shit. That's marked his card now. So that is marked his card, and we like it or not, that's what's happened. You know, to be honest, half that team didn't start performing until after the World Cup when we were sort of already in shit creek. Moyes is buying safe, and you're totally right. He's not exciting. I don't want him to buy safe, but that's what he wants to do. Whereas if
he really goes out and he buys Ward-Prowse, right, and he buys, I don't know, and you've got Ward-Prowse, you've got Paqueta, and then he buys a defensive midfielder. Who he's going to buy? McTominay isn't a defensive midfielder. That midfield is no better than what we've already got. I'm sorry, but I will honestly stand on you and fight anyone that wants to suggest that's better than what we got, because it ain't. It's the same. It is exactly the same. Ward-Prowse, for everything that he does well, he's just got relegated. He's got no pace. Yeah, he's great at free kicks, and he's good on the ball. He can, but he's not a ball carrier. He ain't gonna break them. He ain't gonna break the midfield. He ain't gonna do that for you. So again, it's like, he's an all right player, but he's not what we need. We need energy. Do you know what I mean?
What's your name?
But I'm not. You know, that's a really good choice. That is a really good choice, though.
That's right.
He gives you everything our midfield needs. Yeah. You know, he breaks the play up. He's going to carry the ball. He can pass. He's good in the air. Like, he gives you everything you need. But going out and buying out, a McTominay and a Ward-Prowse. I mean, no way slating them as players, but they're not what we need. They don't make us better. They don't, because they're not ball carriers. They're not going to break the line. They're not going to break things up. You know, McTominay, I'd argue actually he's probably a better signing than Ward-Prowse, because at least he's going to do the box to box and he's got the energy. Yeah. But then Moyes being Moyes, because he's played 120 games for Man United at defensive midfield, that's where he'll play him, because he'll think that's his best position, because he's a fucking idiot. You know, you've managed 1,000 Premier League games and you don't even get it right with the players you've got. So how are you going to get it right with the players you're going to bring in?
But this is where the concern lies. In actual fact, I have no fucking idea who we're going to sign, because this time last week, I was slightly concerned, and I was like, this is it. Right, me and Russ were having a chat, and we were going, it's going to be busy on the channel this week because we're going to be doing all the announcement videos. and I remember, you know, when you're running the channel, you're trying to design your thumbnail for when a player signs. And we've don't even
for about a month.
But we don't know what do you know how, like, for example, last year we done the cool flag thing in the background and stuff. Like, we have no fucking idea how West Ham are going to announce players this year.
You just got to get a generic body and just stick the head on it, lads.
Honestly, it's ridiculous, though.
Welcome, and then just a plaster over it, like for Carlos.
for anyone to turn around and say, it's okay with a week and a half, 2 weeks to go, and not signing players. Every single season, every single team should sign a couple of players minimum, because you always need fresh faces in any sport of a team sport element. It's very rare that you get, and it pisses me off because back to when the players came back, honestly, I rolled up my sleeves and I went, brilliant, we're going to be busy. When I knew the minute he was gone, I was like, brilliant, we're going to be busy. And it's the complete opposite. And all we've done is link us with, not us, the fucking world has linked us to every player and their sons. And we've done a show on every single fucking one of the players that have been linked to us. But we've not even brought one of them out. It's ridiculous. It's really,
it's the whole thing's, it's as you said, and I mean, we know why it's taken so long. Well, what was interesting actually reading that article about the Jacob Steinberg article is the Harvey Barnes bit.
Oh my God.
So Tim's basically turned up and goes, no, we don't want Harvey Barnes. We're going to start again. Where apparently we'd already been in negotiations with Harvey Barnes, and actually Tim Steinden cost us not to get Harvey Barnes. So although we say, I know, and I'm really excited about having him in, but although we're saying he's the Messiah, we really win Harvey Barnes.
Yeah, but it was like I was saying to Ant earlier, though. I think all of them are to blame. I really do. I think all of them are to blame because obviously Steiner's got his way of doing things. I think Sully's to blame because he's the one that's obviously talked to the fucking journo, and then he's gone and written that story. And he's basically, like I said, he's trying to force one of them out. He's just throwing them under the bus. I think Moyes, Moyes is just so stubborn, and he's costing us the chance to sign some very good players at good value. So I think that they're all playing their part in the demise of West Ham this season.
You're totally right.
I made a joke, didn't I, earlier? Me and Cess were talking. I made a joke and I said, season ain't even kicked off. I usually give it a few months before I wave the white flag. I'm over here, mate. I've already got the white flag out. I give up. I don't know who's signing. I don't know what formation we're playing. Don't know what Moyes is doing. I don't know what Sullivan's thinking. What's Steiden doing? Honestly, it's a mess. It's a complete mess. What do you do?
What do you do? Indeed?
You bring in Luis Felipe.
That's what you want. He just got sent.
See what he did yesterday?
Yeah.
Just go around headbutting everyone.
Oh God, yeah, but I think that one's died a death. Hopefully,
no.
Just with Chelsea are after him. It's not why the fuck. Fair enough. Good luck to you. Yeah, for me, it does seem now. I mean, I think pre-season. I think the trouble is pre-season people will look at pre-season and stuff, and obviously, we've played some really shit teams as well, haven't we? And I know we've played Spurs. It was Spurs' first, pre-season. Rennes, top 4 league our side. We'll probably end up drawing them in the Europa League. They're in the competition. They're in pot 2, I think. So the chances are we could be going back to Rennes in September. But and I think when we play Bayer Leverkusen next week. I don't know, because you want momentum, don't you? You want some momentum. You want to go into that Bournemouth game with even if the Bayern Munich the Bayer Leverkusen game, you get a good draw or a good win. It's a good performance. It's something to feed on. It's going into Bournemouth. So this week it's gonna be shit.
Well, usually I look at pre-season. I just think, it's about getting your tactics nailed on, bit of fitness, get a run out and whatever. But when you look at how far ahead Rennes were from us today.
Yeah.
It's what have we been doing? Honestly, it's what's going on? Because we looked 10 yards behind them today.
Oh, we did. We looked like we'd literally just got back from the summer.
Yeah, we didn't look like we'd played any games.
Yeah, it looked like the first game, which was mental.
And I don't know, in terms of how many players Rennes have brought in over the summer, but either
2.
way, well, I mean,
they're both on the bench.
The 2 teams that they put out today just had that, like you said, Dan, ball playing midfielders who just took one look up. They were really, when they had the ball and nothing was on, they were really confident playing the ball back, and all their players in defence had no problem being in tight spaces and playing the ball back from defence. But when you played the ball back, when Downs played the ball back through our defence, everyone was shitting themselves, literally shitting themselves. And that was another concern. I was just like, what are you doing? That's what made it clear, though, that nobody really knew what was going on.
And I think an issue we've got, though, is any good manager will evolve, and he'll go through. I mean, no way comparing Pep Guardiola and David Moyes when I say this, right?
Quite clip it, Dan.
But
This is the next
just an example, right? An example. City last season started very poorly by their standards, right? And they went on to win the treble. Why did they go on to win the treble? Because Pep realised there was an issue. So he changed the formation, changed the way they did things. And he went from making up that 12, 13 point gap to Arsenal to win the league, to win the FA Cup and to win the Champions League. It's called evolving. Yeah, it's called noticing where the issues are, pinpointing them and changing things up. David Moyes has managed enough fucking games that he should be able to sit there on the bench and realise when things are going wrong, right? And abandon things and change things up. But this is a manager that has no plan B. He literally has one way of playing. And it was front and centre today because he started with his tried and tested formation in that first half. And then obviously things weren't quite going to plan. And he thought, I'll experiment a bit. And he went to a 4-4-2. And we got torn to shreds after he went 4-4-2 because he clearly has never, ever trained that formation. He has clearly never put that team through a 4-4-2. But he thought, you know what? Let's just do it. But he's just so one-dimensional. He is such a one-dimensional manager. And in today's game, in the modern game, you cannot afford to be as one-dimensional as he is. That's why we struggled in the league last year. It's why we've been struggling in the league for the best part of 2 years now. And we're going to go into another season with the same formation, the same players, the same favourites. We're in the same boat. And this is why someone like STEIDTEN has been brought in to change that. But if they're not willing to work together, how's this football club ever going to move forward?
And wasn't the deal last year to change the way we wanted to play as well? So it's happened.
Because he hasn't got it in his locker to evolve a new tactic and a new way of doing things, he just went abandon that, jump ship, and go back to what we've always done. I mean, you've got to be able to do multiple things in football these days. You can't just be this one-dimensional team.
Well, I've said it before. You talk about Pep, and I think in terms of how ruthless he can be. You see the players that have left under his stewardship. Every year it's a rebuild, really, in several positions. Obviously Kyle Walker's gone. They're going to get in Josip coming through. Last year they got rid of Gabriel Jesus. They brought in Haaland. And they're constantly involving their side. We're not. We're and that's the trouble. We don't evolve. And even someone like Fornals, even like Souček, Soufal, these guys are going to go until they basically run into the ground.
Yep. Week on week, you've got to be able to, week on week, as a football manager, you have got to be able to pinpoint the problems. I'm not just talking about tactics and the way you train. I'm talking about absolutely everything. Players, how happy they are. What can we do to improve that? Game time, plan them out of positions, changing the formations up. Can we train differently? Can we make this more effective? Can we give them more energy? Can we get them fitter? You should be asking yourself these questions constantly as a manager. He shouldn't be sleeping. Pep Guardiola don't.
No.
He fucking eat, breathes and shits football, that bloke. That's the sort of manager you need. I'm not being funny, but we've got young managers coming through. Look at De Zerbi at Brighton. He's gone in there and he's gone, I don't give a fuck. I'm getting this team into Europe for the first time. Look at them. I was watching them against Newcastle when a friendly, passing it out from the back. They passed it in such a way they ended up with 20 yards of space in the midfield. And this is against the Newcastle team. And it might be pre-season, but they ain't average.
Yeah, but they done that against us as well. Remember,
honestly, it was. I was watching it, and I was just like, what I would give to watch West Ham play football like that. But we've got no philosophy. This is the issue with the club. It's not just Moyes. There's no philosophy anymore. Everyone talks about the West Ham way, but does it really exist anymore?
It does up to the first team. I'd say from the 21s down, it does.
Well, when you watch the way the 21s played last year, it does make you wonder why they didn't fuck Moyes off and just stick Keane in charge for a bit.
Keane won't do it. But that's what I mean for the 18s and stuff. And I know that obviously I think it hasn't been announced yet officially. But Mark, who's in the 18s, he'll be joining Nobes as his assistant. So. So whether role, obviously it's part, I don't know what role technically Nobes is called now. I think it's still a sporting director, but it's more mainly pathway academy director. It seems, really, to be fair, in terms of what most of his time is. but they're obviously, so it does seem from that sort of from the youth side, from the academy side, there is a philosophy. There is still also a heritage in terms of West Ham. In fact, that every age group has a West Ham ex-player in the coaching staff as well. And there is I mean, you watch the 18s play, fuck, they were good. Last year they were good.
That you know, and I completely agree with that. And that's a little bit like the reason why that's probably okay is because first and foremost, there's not a huge amount of money involved in terms of having to recruit. So therefore, the owner of the club is not heavily involved and lets the people do what they need to do in terms to get the job done. But essentially, you know, I'm just jokingly thinking there, like your thumbnail rush should have actually been Sullivan at the top holding two puppets, and they would have been Moyes versus Steiden, and in the middle a big pot and Sullivan with one hand mixing the fucking pot. Like it's
how can he do two things? How can he
I don't know, mate, because he's an octopus, mate, and he's got so many fucking hands. He's got but this is the point, though. It's I can feel the kind of annoyance kicking in, and I'm not annoyed at Moyes. I'm not annoyed at Steiden. I'm annoyed at Sullivan for doing.
I'm annoyed at all of them.
I am as well. But essentially, the power it's everything you do. Someone has to take control of the situation.
But the thing is, though, it's like I guarantee not every club has not everyone on the same page. Do you know what I mean? It seems, you know, I guarantee if you watch, we've got the Newcastle thing coming out soon, haven't we? On I think comes out a couple of weeks' time, the All or Nothing. I guarantee, obviously, and I read an article that Steve Bruce did, where basically he just said, look, I know where you want to go, and actually I'm not part of it, but I think you should get Eddie Howe. I think he's going to be really good for you. But I guarantee, like, you know, the owners and the director and Eddie, they don't agree on every signing, but they still make signings. I reckon Edu and Arteta probably have some right old barneys about who should be signing, but they still sign players, and that's the thing. But we're using it as an excuse.
But I reckon they can at least sit down like two adults and go, like, this is what I want. Yeah. Whereas, see, this is how I think a conversation goes at the moment, right? Steiden sits down and Moyes is like, I want X, Y, Z, and Steiden sits there and goes, they're too expensive. We ain't really got the money for them. But I've got a player that is a bit like that. What do you think? And Moyes sits there and goes, well, I don't watch football outside the Premier League, so I don't know what he's like. So let's just buy this player. That is exactly how I think the conversation goes.
And I think the conversation is almost exactly the same, apart from, rather than I don't know the Premier League, when I bought loads of foreign players last year, it didn't work for me very well. So I want to buy a safe one.
But imagine having
that's basically what I reckon happens.
But imagine being that one-dimensional. It comes back to that, which is because a few foreigners didn't work one season means that a few more foreign players ain't going to work the next. Like, that's just so one-dimensional.
It is. It's true. But that's and that's actually in that article. You know, that's something he picks up on. Moyes wants a British core running through the side, and so. That's probably.
See, I'm not against that. I'm not against that.
If you get the
right British players, I'm not against that at all. You know, I don't think Ward-Prowse is the right one. He's 29, and apart from having a good passing game, what does he really give you? He's not that mobile. Whereas you bring someone like Conor Gallagher in, I agree with that one. He's 23. He fits the profile.
Yep.
He has a good few years, and you get to a point where you potentially want to upgrade, or his value is exceeding maybe what you can offer him contract wise. You sell him for big money. That just makes more sense. And the thing with him is he's a box to box player. He works hard, big determination, breaks into the box often, wastes chances but never gives up. That's the thing I really like about him, is he is a bit wasteful, but he will continue game after game arriving in the box. You know, and he will give you that.
And as much, but the thing is, you need to be in a situation. But you need to be in a situation where, in theory, you are wasteful, if that makes any sense. Now, it's contradictory to maybe the Benrahma comment. The difference between Benrahma being wasteful and Conor Gallagher being wasteful is Gallagher's in front of goal, maybe wasteful, but Benrahma's final third and getting the ball into the fucking box is wasteful. So,
but someone's made a very good comment there. The right Brits, but we won't go for Alex Scott. Alex Scott fits the profile if you're trying to build a British core. That is just the sort of player you should be going for.
And trying to appease both sides of the coin.
Yeah, exactly.
He's British, and but actually he's young, and there's a real sell-on value there.
That one confuses me, because that's a 25 million pound signing. So that's what you're going to pay for Ward-Prowse. He's probably got a higher ceiling and can do a bit more. You know, Wolves can't afford him, so you could get in there and get that done. Why are we differing? And the thing is, as well, the Championship is a breeding ground for class players that make that leap up to the Premier League really easy.
He's done it before, hasn't he? He's did it with Bowen and stuff. He's done it with
amount of players that have really good standout season or two down there, and then they come to the Premier League and they absolutely light it up. You know, and it's a no-brainer, that signing.
Oh, it is. It is. But again, it's one of those things where, apart from Wolves, no one else has put him for him. Do you know what I mean? And that's the strange thing with a lot of these players who we linked with, they're still available, and no one else has. So I don't know if everyone else is having the same conversations that seems to having at West Ham. You know, it's only Wolves, the A side, that were vaguely interested. They can't even afford Aaron Cresswell. We're talking about clubs in the shit. Go and watch the Wolves fan channels if you want to see an unhappy fan base at the moment, selling all their team, and their manager publicly criticising on an unofficial interview. But it seems that, you know, I mean, I can't believe Alex Scott is still available. That's that, and you know, even Harvey Barnes. It took ages. He's only been gone the last week, 10 days. It surprises me that these guys are still available. I don't know whether it's no one else fancies them or whatever. It's strange because you think someone like Alex Scott, everyone would be chomping their hands off the bits to get him for 25 million quid.
Yeah.
Apart from Paqueta today, like, I was delighted when Mabama came on, and Mabama made a bit of a difference. You know, he dropped in deep, he done really good link-up play, and he drove forward, and he had a couple of chances as well. So there's a positive in terms of, you know, maybe seeing a young West Ham player making the step up into the senior team. But that's fine in saying that. But if you're doing nothing else elsewhere, then nothing's going to happen, and he's not going to get the chances because we're not going to feed him, because we're going to be so static in the midfield, so defensive in the midfield. And like you said, Russ, the gaps are huge. Again, you know, we bridge those gaps. I'm going to bring them up. I don't care what anyone says, but I'm going to bring them up. We bridged that gap when we had Lingard. When Lingard came in the short-term loan, he did. That was a great bit of business, because energy, but someone to bridge the gap between the midfield and the striker who drove forward at those defenses from a deeper position.
But this is the issue we've got here, lads, right? I know not everybody watches as much football as me, but I've watched Fofana play football, right? And you could instantly inject energy and a bit of bite into that midfield if you just let STEIDTEN go and buy him. It's 25 million. It's not a lot of money. I would love to know. I'd love to know exactly how much we've got to spend. Yeah. Because Moyes clearly has his targets that he wants. McTominay, JWP, Harry Maguire. They're the three he wants, right? But on every one of those players, we've lowballed. So that tells me one or two things. That tells me that Sullivan and STEIDTEN are either in cahoots and they're like, we're going to lowball until we get to a point where we've just got to buy yours, or there's actually really not that much money there and we cannot afford Moyes' targets. And if it gets to a point where Moyes is so stubborn that he won't sign anybody else, we're going to go into a season with this team and we are going to struggle. Big time struggle.
I think it's the second one. I think it's more. I think it's where, you know, personally, it sounds like it's more of a case of lowballing to get the STEIDTEN targets in.
A little bit of me feels like STEIDTEN was appointed this summer, right? I said to privately when we were having a chat the other night, I feel like STEIDTEN was appointed for the next manager first and foremost. But I also think he's been brought in maybe a summer early because they know we ain't got that much to spend, and he is a bit more frugal and a bit more clever with money.
Maybe, even if he has, that's the part. Sorry, Russ, that's the part that confuses me, because if he has, then why would the leaks? You know, surely they would just all be nice and calm in the background. Then knowing, like, if they've brought him in,
but they're not calm because Moyes just doesn't seem to understand it and won't.
But what I mean is, if they've brought him in for next summer, essentially just to make sure they've got the man in the door, then the whole situation in terms of them having issues. I mean, literally. I mean, I'm just right now when we're on live, I'm going on to some of the websites and reading all the stuff. It's fucking ridiculous. And there's only so many times I can keep saying I don't know if I believe the rumors. I don't know if I believe the rumors. But if it's coming from every fucking source, including the source that's closest to the fucking owner, like, then it's obviously really fucking true or close to being true. It's ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
in terms of the Steidten thing, I think again, I don't sign up to the idea that he was brought in as a placeholder for the next owners or shit like that. That did happen. But I think what he has been brought in for, and probably brought in for now, he's knowing full well that they're going to sell Declan Rice for 105 million quid. Sully and the West Ham board are pissed off that we spent 180 million pounds on players last year and didn't really get the value out of them, perceived value out of them. Obviously, we did win a trophy, and I don't think they trust him with 100, probably a little bit more. I reckon about 120, 130 million pounds to spend. So that's why Steiden's in there to get the most value out of that money. Because we overpaid on some players. We bought, it was unfortunate. Obviously, Agard got injured, and we probably then bought in Tilo Kehrer as a replacement and people like that. But still, they were, by a particular article, again, that would have been fact checked by the source before it went out, for sure. Otherwise, it's libel. So that had been fact checked. It did say that they were frustrated with Rob Newman and Moyes' activity last summer, in terms of what was brought in. And
but if they were so frustrated, why is Stein not allowed to do his job?
Exactly. That's what I don't understand.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's just it's nonsense. It really is nonsense.
But it's almost like getting the narrative out there. And this is and it's to me that looks like that Moyes wants one thing, Steiden wants another thing. Steiden's come in, he's been picked by the board to do it. We were led to believe, according to information, that Noble basically gave Sully Tim Steiner's name to interview him, as well as everyone else, Paul Mitchell and everyone else, in terms of the available job. So it's almost like it's like that kid. Not the new kid, but the kid on, when you go into the school hall for lunch and there's a kid on his own. That to me is Moyes at the moment. He's not on the call table. He's there eating his dinner on his own with his box of milk do any
of his coaches even like him, because they were walking out and all?
Well, yeah.
So I don't think he's arsed in that. Well, he's not arsed, is he? Really, he's not.
He hasn't got anyone else in.
Yeah.
So that's the easy. I think it was Dan said it last time. That's the easiest thing to do, is bringing the coach. And he hasn't brought in a coach. So is he happy with? To be honest, we do have quite a lot of coaches already. To be fair, we have got. We had the luxury. There was too many of them. Half of them sit up in the box near me, watching the game from afar and on the walkie-talkie they were on the walkie-talkie to Paul Nevin, obviously pitch side. But Billy McKinney and they're up the top in the press box. I will pass them every game. So we've got so many, we can't even fit them on the bench. So, I don't think, I'm surprised they haven't brought in, what's his name, Steve Round yet. But end of the day, why is a coach going to sign a 1-year deal? Because Moyes is going to leave in the summer next year, if not before. And so they'll be out in their ear. So I don't think you'll bring in another coach. I think you'll probably promote from within, or you'll get someone like Ginge or someone like that on like a short-term deal, just to repeat, like Slav did with Julian, that type of sort of bringing an ex-player to fill up the bench, because you've got Nolan. If you've got someone like Ginge, would be brilliant, and obviously Noble's there as well as sporting director. So I would be surprised seeing someone like Ginge come in.
Thinking go like back into today's game, and you're thinking about Scamacca, for example, and I know we were saying there was subs coming on, and it was like 65 minutes gone, and still there was no Scamacca. And at this point, we were all saying in our head, if he doesn't play today, like he's definitely gone. But I think he came on with like 20 minutes to go. Like it doesn't make sense to me. Like even that, like it doesn't add up. It's like you've got a game. You literally now have got 110 minutes left before you play your first Premier League game, and we're led to believe that Scamacca is staying at the club, even though every fucking rumour, every time you type his name on the internet, is saying he's leaving the club. It doesn't matter what we think he's leaving the club, but the club are telling us he's staying. So why the fuck is he not playing? Like, what's 20 minutes going to do for a big lad like that needs 90 minutes in him? Are we literally going to start again the Premier League season, as you said, Dan, in the watch along with one man up top? Like, we can't do that, because he is going to be isolated. It's going to be isolated, and we are going to get beat. Well, yeah.
You can play him up top on himself if you go and buy 2 centre midfielders One that will sit as a 6, and the other one that's a bit more dynamic and got an engine and energy, and it allows Paqueta to get closer to Scamacca.
Yeah, that's key.
But unless you're going to do that, then it is pointless going into another Premier League season with a striker like Scamacca who's going to be isolated and not be able to do the job, because he isn't Antonio. He isn't that sort of player. He just isn't. He's a back-to-goal striker who would play the wingers in, play the attacking midfielder in, burst into the box between the 12 and the 6-yard boxes where he's most deadly. But if you're not playing a system that allows your wingers and your fullbacks to bomb on and get balls in the box, what's the point in having a striker like him? I feel for him. He got a lot of stick last season because he kind of come off a bit lazy or whatever. But we've had this with the last 3 or 4 strikers. We keep buying these strikers that don't fit the system, and then they suffer as a result. And it's not that they're bad players, because Haller is the latest one to prove he's not a shit player, because he's gone and done it at Ajax and Dortmund.
Yeah.
It's not the player. It is the system and the manager. And until you change that, it's cool. You're never going to get the best out of these world-class strikers.
I'm not being a dick to anyone who goes and gets hair transplants, because obviously I don't need it. I'm not being a dick to that. But when I look at Danny Ings' hair, I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
it takes so long for it to grow.
Does it really take that long?
Yeah.
He looked so fucking bald in the game.
Yeah.
At some points I couldn't even work out who it was.
It can take up to 6, because you got it takes like for the first week you can't sleep lying down. You got to sit up. You have to sit. You have to sleep sitting up. And so,
Ross, can you do it?
No. And
I ain't got to worry, mate.
And when we have this conversation, I always talk about the Shenfield Hair Clinic, just in case they are listening, because it'd be great. Because I say down the road, but no, it takes forever, and it's incredible how it all works. A couple of people I know have had it done, and Danny. But I don't think you could touch your head for like 6 weeks. I don't know how he managed to head the ball and stuff, because it's like
maybe that's why it's so bad.
But he plays set, but he paid 17 grand for it. I think he's used about 4 or 5 grand. But he went to like Harley Street, big money. But anyway,
big money.
It wasn't very hair raising indeed.
What's that?
But I know what you mean though. I know what you mean in terms of I mean, yes. Why wasn't? And someone says that they know Moyes must know how Danny Ings plays. So why didn't they start with Mbama today? Yeah, or Scamacca. And it's like I think Scamacca. I think Babylon 9 said he hasn't been training most of the week because he's so anyway. But still, Mbama could have started today, surely, rather than Danny Ings,
or just fucking support him. Like I think I said that in the starting lineup, and it's like just put someone else up there, because it was just the same old story. It was either Danny Ings was dropping deep and then looked up, put the ball forward, no one was there, or the ball was getting put to Danny Ings and there was 4 defenders and Danny Ings. Like it was just because the gaps were so big. And I know it's a friendly, but I think everyone in the chat seems to be on the same wavelength.
I think we are. I think we take the good and the bad of the friendly as well, because we've been praising how well Danny Ings has scored a few goals in pre-season. So is Mbama as well. It's like great, he's been playing really well, and so when we don't have a good one and a good game, it highlights it. Question from Wetty Fap: who's starting up front against Bournemouth then? Assume it's going to be the 4-2. assume it's going to be 4-2-3-1, because I think it will be. We're not going to do anything different. It's going to be
Antonio will start up front.
Danny Ings.
I'll say Scamacca. One of us has got to be fucking right. And that's Navy and Barman next.
I'm telling you now, it don't matter that Antonio ain't played a minute of pre-season. He'll start up front. He's Moyes' man. Same as Souček will start in the midfield.
Oh, Souček will be starting. He'll probably be captain.
He will. Antonio will start. He won't matter. Antonio will start. Don't matter that Antonio's been slagging off the club, slagging off players, and
Moyes,
and been shit in the Premier League for the best part of 18 months.
Slagging off Moyes.
Yeah, he'll still play. He'll still play because he's the only player that can do what Moyes wants.
Oh dear, GP. No, I agree. And it's. I mean, you look. I'm looking at who Bournemouth have brought in the transfer window. They brought Hamid Traore from Sassuolo. They brought in Romain Favre, but he's gone back out to Lorient. They brought in obviously Perez from AZ Alkmaar, and they've got in Radu from Inter Milan, the goalkeeper, on loan. So, and obviously they got the new manager as well. So it's not looking good. Oh dear.
Yeah, but I'd be surprised if we pick up any points in the first 6 games.
I don't know.
But I think last year, do you remember last year we were like, a lot of people based on our fixtures, we were like, oh, we're not going to get any points until like November. And we picked up a few, and then we sort of had a really shit game against Chelsea where, you know, the goal didn't stand, and I just don't want any excuses. I want if we play, you know, it's like I just want us to. If we've lost, we've lost, as you know, and we can move on, because I think it's going to take. I don't know how many games. I don't know how many games he's got. 6 games, maybe.
I think if things ain't going well by the end of October, beginning of November, I think he'll be gone. Because it will give them time to get someone in just before the heavy Christmas period, and then they'll get January. There's no way, if Moyes is doing shit, that they can be that stupid to hold on to him until January. You just can't. Oh no, I know. I wouldn't put anything past Sullivan. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying you can't be that stupid. You've got to give the next manager the January transfer window.
Yeah, but you can't really put anything by the situation right now. Again, today's article should be proof of that. Like, it should be proof in the pudding. Like, anyone who looks at that article and thinks that's normal, it's not normal. It's really not normal.
It's not normal. It's and it's the
same.
It's
normal
thing.
West Ham. Sorry.
Yeah, but it's the same thing as we were saying with the whole Antonio thing. This has been leaked out in the same way that Steinberg did an article. Was it just? I think it was like February, March time, basically saying all the players had like hated Moyes' tactics, and there was all discontent in the dressing room. And again, that would have been okayed. So he would have got leaks from players probably as well for that. All this shit that comes out, I don't see half this shit coming out about other teams. Apart from Wolves. Wolves is the only other one. But everything else, it seems that it's constant. It's constant. And also part of it is because we're West Ham, we tuned into the West Ham news. But it does seem there's a constant leak culture now. And where we had, I think it was in last summer, we were like cackling for some news because there was no leaks at all. No leaks really about all the players we were after. And then, boof, Lucas Paqueta turns up, and boof, Lucas Skamaka turns up. It seems everything's leaked again now. And, last year, they definitely, I remember Moyes reading an interview of him saying, that there was, he was going to tighten up, there was going to be no leaks, and, we're keeping all our business under wraps. That's gone out the window now. Antonio does it in a podcast now. Moyes does it in a podcast. You've got fucking, Steinberg all the time releasing these articles. It's ridiculous at the moment now. It's absolutely ridiculous now. It is,
honestly, I don't even think it would detriment what we do in the channel, but I have no care at all about fucking leaks. I really don't. I really wish they would close that down once and for all. Like, I really do. Like, we had it. Do you remember going back to even? I know there's always going to be rumors, and I just, that's fine. But when the Sully's kids were putting stuff out,
it
was really remember at the time I wasn't even excited by that. Like, I really wasn't. And we've been given news in the past, in particular, I was given particular news in the past quite a lot, and I would always share that news in the past on the channel, but I would always say it was passed on to me, not because I want to be an ITK, because the person who gave me the news was in theory the ITK, but it bores the shit. It bores me. I don't want it because I don't know. It throws me into a different world of understanding what the fuck's going on with the West Ham world. It's just.
I think we're all sort of rational people in terms of when we see stuff. You see stuff in the press and you go, oh, "That's bullshit." That's that. I can see, and that's what we try and do. I know people go, "Why the fuck do you talk about 125 players have been linked to?" Because they've been linked, and so we don't say this one's going to sign. We say, okay, well, we give it the old Rusty rumour rating. This is bullshit. This one, I could see why that's X, Y, and Z, that type of thing. And that's the same with all the news and leaks that comes out. But as you said, with so many sort of sources saying the same thing, you sort of go, well,
I suppose the biggest problem is the fucking leak is the owner. Like, that's like
allegedly.
Well, I know, but you know what I mean. Sorry, yes, allegedly. I have to make sure I say that, but that's where the problem, one of the first problem lies, in my opinion. That's possibly allegedly. Yeah.
But
Probably.
okay, right, okay. There's some questions here, a bit of fun. Okay, right. Who would you replace Moyes given the opportunity?
That question is, who do you want and who do you think will? I'll add the second part is who do you think will as well. So who do you want and who do you think will?
Potter will, because that will be Sully's choice. But there's a few managers I really like. None of them would come. I really like Thomas Frank at Brentford. That's what I really like. Because he changed the way everything was done there. He changed the philosophy and the way they play football. Really works well with the owners. You know, like it's just a proper football man. And I feel like that's what we need, is someone like that. I feel like he would work with someone like a STEIDTEN. I think like you would.
Oh yeah.
You know, you would get that. You know, he sees value. He sees value in players. You know, they're another one, a bit like Brighton. You know, they really sell a player for, less than they bought them for.
Although to be honest, Dan, people talk about how well run Brighton is. If you look at their loss, they've lost over. They lost under 60 million loss. 110 million in the previous one. Then another 100. Then another 70 million. They lose a lot of money. Because. But anyway, carry on. Sorry, that's one thing about Brighton.
But yeah, no, but he'd be mine. I just think tactically,
it's a great shout. It's a great shout.
Good. I just feel like he would. They're another team. They play good football, And at the end of the day, as a football fan, I might get pelters for this. It's not always about like winning and losing. It's just about the way you play the game. It's got to be fucking enjoyable.
Goals are fun.
It is. You know what I mean? It is. You draw a game 4-4. That's far more interesting than watching a shut up shop and then lose last minute 1-0. It just goals are fun. You want to be entertained. At the end of the day, we are not entertained under this current regime, and haven't been entertained for a long time.
The biggest thing in life a lot of people say about is staying ahead of the curve, like whether that's been in sport or your job or everything you do, trying to be ahead of the curve, and also like innovation and innovating and being different. Like you can't be the same. So as much as I thank Moyes for what he's done at West Ham in terms of giving us a successful couple of years as fans, definitely, we can't take that away from him and winning that cup. Amazing. But if you're not going to change, your spots, then something needs to change elsewhere. And we're not innovating right now. That's the problem. We're one of the only teams that are. We were found out today in a preseason friendly, and we were found out last year in the Premier League, and it's very easy to find us out because when you look at the choices we've got and we don't change, Downs, Paqueta, like you said, Souček, it's just the same old. What
we can't afford to do with the next managerial appointment is go for one of what I like to call the good old boys. One of these managers. It don't matter how fucking. That's what I was going to say. Benitez. Yeah, it don't matter how poorly they did at their last club, what their current record is, or whatever. It's just a job for the boys. And they all get them. Mark Hughes, Benitez, Steve Bruce, David Moyes, Alan Pardew. You know what I mean? None of them are like that great, but it's a job for the boys. They'll all get one because they're part of that group, aren't they? That's probably a bit harsh on Rafa considering what he's won in his career, but at the same time, like at this point in his managerial career, he has to kind of be considered one of them, doesn't he? The next appointment has got to be someone young and fresh who sees football for what it is today and is willing to evolve this football club and build a philosophy and change things, because you can't just keep going through this cycle of rinse and repeat. You can't just keep regurgitating the same old shit.
See this comment here from Hammers Mikey about Roy Hodgson. I know what he's saying. I don't know what you're actually saying, but I've spoken to a lot of Crystal Palace fans who were fucking utterly enraged at bringing Roy Hodgson in. The difference between bringing Roy Hodgson in and Vieira in is literally one thing and one thing only. He just unleashed the forward line, which is what Vieira didn't do. So I'm not trying to take away from what Roy Hodgson done. I'm actually saying, like, fucking fair play to you, mate. Like, you've came in and you've gone. Apparently, I seen an interview done with one of the players, and he was like, "Why are you Elise and Zaha and and Eberechi not playing together. Like, I don't understand it. And he was like, go and do what you do. Just go and do what you do. And bang, I think under Vieira, they hadn't even scored 4 goals in his whole time there. But under Roy Hodgson in his first something like 6 games, they went ahead and scored 4 goals. What they were doing was outscoring the opposition. So he's like one of the, I don't think he's not like a manager I would want. I think he's just came in at the right time.
But the point you made, but the point you're making is he does the polar opposite to what Moyes does. Moyes doesn't unleash, does he? Just kind of he's all about safety first. Whereas he's gone in there and he's gone, we're going to get relegated if this carries on. I just need to let you front 4 do what you do best, and that's score goals. And but you need to have a manager that's brave enough to do that. And I think that the next managerial appointment for us, I would really argue, the next managerial appointment for us is so important to get right. And that's why if it ends up being really uninspiring and really boring, because it's safe and it's like one of these, the good old boys, because that's all Sullivan knows, it's going to be a worry. It needs to be someone young and exciting, I feel like Xabi Alonso's probably with a good shout because of his relationship with STEIDTEN. I feel like that's the one. Shout. But, you kind of look at the job that he did at Leverkusen and you'd argue that actually that'd be an half-decent appointment because, they were a ship without a captain and he went in there and he sorted them out. So, it's got to be someone along those lines. It's got to be someone with a fresh way of thinking. And
that's my shout. That's my shout. It'd be someone like him or Carrick. Someone, because I think someone with a new sort of, as you said, a fresh. And I think actually, there's a few I quite like. Although I don't like I don't think Gerrard's a very good manager, and a few others, but I think there's a few out there. I think Alonso's one of them, obviously Arteta, and I think Michael Carrick has the potential to be a good manager, and another 6-7 months under his belt, maybe. I think he could come in and do a job, but I think the players respect them already. So someone like Xabi Alonso, he's been there, done it, worn the t-shirt, so it doesn't matter. Everyone knows Xabi Alonso, and the same as Mikel Arteta. He should not be named. That was one of the main reasons why he's gone to Arsenal, was because of Arteta and performing and playing under Arteta.
I wouldn't even mind a manager none of us really know about. Let's really be honest. Like all 3 of us, hand on heart, did any of us know who De Zerbi was?
No, not at all. And but that's the job. That's the job of director of football.
Yeah, exactly.
Technical director to do that. Obviously, so it might be even like when someone like Arnie Slot was linked with us, or Will Still, and then he's not going into it in a little bit more detail. And you look at these players. To me, it's like I think someone, and I think that's the trouble also with some of the. I think I think that there's a different mindset now of the fan base now, where if we'd gone and bought, say STEIDTEN wasn't here, and then we bought someone random in like a player, we'd be like, that's a cheap option. But actually now we know we've got STEIDTEN, we know he's buying cheaper play, or he wants to buy cheaper players to develop them. People are a lot more forgiving. You don't have to go out and buy a massive name that everyone's heard of, because actually the game's moved on a bit. So look at the likes of Brighton bringing in Caicedo. Moses Caicedo, no one knew who the fuck he was, and now he's like 80, 90 million, £100 player. You really, in terms of what Brighton want with him. Same as McAllister as well. McAllister wasn't even getting to the Argentina side until he joined fucking Brighton, and now he's gone to Liverpool. So
and it's just a bit like I feel like when things are maybe kind of pointing in the right direction, when you think the money's coming in, when you go back to the deal about who should not be named leaving the club and how well we managed that situation to drive the money up. And then the next day, we win the cup, and then the next day, Sully comes out and says what he says on the radio, and then we drive the money up, and everyone's like, he's done well, and then we don't buy players. You can't help but think that Sully's just a fucking drama. He wants drama in his life. Like, he actually must generate drama. Like, it must be...
Maybe the drama's what's keeping him alive.
That's what I mean.
He needs blood. He needs drama.
But honestly, you've got people like that, and usually they're your ex. Usually, like, the reason that someone's an ex is because they're fucking full of drama. You'd have someone in work. We've all been involved with drama, doing YouTube channels and shit like that. Like, there's a reason why. It's because people want drama, and that's just what happens, and can't be fucked with that shit. Tim STEIDTEN feels like us. And it's like, and then you've got all this sort of stuff. But this comment from Hughes 7070, no one can tell me that Nobes can't see what's going on at the club and what the players are saying about Moyes. So if he loves the club like he does, he's got to speak to Sully or walk. The thing is, I believe he does know what's going on. I believe he's probably not happy, and I believe that I was on with Nick the other night on Claret and Booze, and Nick was saying but Nick was saying,
and you survived. Well done.
yeah, but Nick was actually saying like it's something's going on, and I know Nick goes like, but it's true. Like you can't help but think something is going on because it's weird. It actually is weird.
I think obviously we've been privileged enough to talk to interview lots of the people like Mark Phillips, like Kevin, like people like that. And to be honest, it sounds like Noble does fuck all with the first team. Really, it's all about the academy. He's at the academy. He's at the Mark Noble Arena every day, talking to the 18s, putting his boots on. What sporting director goes in for a training session? You know, there's a boots. Is a lot more he should be dealing with than doing that type of thing. I don't think he is. He probably talks to the players. He's probably obviously he knows Cress and a lot of the players he's played with. I think I just think his attention is purely on that academy and getting as many in terms of the pathway. He knows properly what's going on. He'd have been in Sully's ear, and maybe Sully just puts both fingers in his ear and goes la 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 la, and then that's why Nobes is always around the academy instead.
No, actually, I don't think Sully does. I genuinely think Sully listens and then goes, "Fuck it, I'm just going to do the opposite." And then someone else comes in and he's going to go, yeah, fuck it, I'm just going to do the opposite. Yep. What does he want? Steiden, you want that player? Okay. Moyes, he wants that player, but I don't think you should get him. Moyes, you want that player? Okay. Steiden, he wants that player, but I don't think you should get him. Like, I honestly think that's what's going on. Genuinely, because it's fucking mental. It is mental from the top to bottom. It's mental. It is mental. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. It's very odd. It's odd.
It's an odd. It's an odd dynamic. You know, it's not dynamic where you've got again, this, we listen to Talk Sport and you listen to all these, I don't see many other owners talking on Talk Sport or talking in interviews. I don't. I see the Newcastle. I saw Amanda, when obviously Newcastle sort of like the takeover, she was all over the press and that was it. I don't see anyone from the Arsenal owners. I don't see the Chelsea. I don't see Todd much now talking in the press or even doing interviews with Jim or interviews, but Sully's, it's all about him.
Could you actually imagine All or Nothing doing a fucking West Ham stream?
Do you know what? Here we go. Do you know what? There was talk once of that happening. BBC were going to be doing it for the Olympics, and we did some test, sort of like they did a little bit, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, but I tell you what, though, you can totally picture it now, right? You're trying to. I remember watching an interview with this is not All or Nothing, but the Iniacho from Leicester doing a tour of the Leicester's training ground, and I mean it was just a phenomenal experience. And then suddenly you fucking West Ham, All or Nothing. They're trying to do how do you make the porter cabins look fucking cool as fuck?
Well, we've got for another 2 years now.
Do his editing skills, man, to fucking edit that shit like fuck to make it look amazing. And
even with my drone and the best footage in the world, I can't make that look good.
Yeah, but then do you know what? You'd go and talk to Sully, and he'd be sitting there, this fucking dead tiger rug over his lap, and then there'd be a statue of Elvis, and he'd be sitting there, and they'd be asking him questions about the club, and he'd be like, "Yeah, do you like my Elvis trophy?" Like, it's like, fuck off.
Did you see they did the Sky Sports thing, the transfer window, where we were in it, and it was a series I think last summer, and we were involved quite. I think out in January, but it was the previous summer. And West Ham featured quite a lot of it. There was a lot of Sully interviews. It was quite interesting. Yeah. There was one point where the agents walked in and I can't remember who the player was. It was a striker, and they went in to have dinner with the West Ham board or directors, and then they walked straight back out thinking, yeah, went really well. And then they get like a call or a text to say it's not on or something like that. Just as they walk out, they didn't have the bollocks that you say no to their face. Absolutely brilliant.
What Peter's put there, documentary, it looked like The Office. He would be David Brent.
Right, okay.
Oh, you have given Russ a fucking thumbnail and a show idea. I'm telling you that right now. He's fucking spinning.
Who's gonna be Tim? Who's gonna be Tim?
Look at me, he's writing it down now. He's fucking
Gareth. Obviously, I'm the big lad. There we go. Here we go. Done.
Oh man,
brilliant. So funny, but we got to laugh about it, innit? But do you know what? It's been no different. It's been no different.
Russ, can I interfere quickly? Sorry, I really do need to go because the missus is going to kill me. We're going. So just before I do go, just for everyone that knows, I won't be on for about a week to 10 days because I'm going off on holiday. But I'll do a couple of things tomorrow and for you and Monday, Russ, before I head as well.
Don't have to. Don't know.
Well, mate, I will. Don't you worry. Just want to see my face on the channel, don't you?
Yeah,
Dan, I'll speak to you soon, mate. And I'll let you.
Bye. Yeah, go. Oh, thank God for that. Oh, jeez, what's he doing? Fuck off.
Fuck him off. Hi, everyone. You all right?
Don't do that. It's really annoying when people do that. Yeah. We got a lot, but as I said, Dan, it's been a different. I remember like the move to the London Stadium and the Gokhan Toure and Faguli and Jonathan Kaleri. I remember, God, I remember buying shitloads of players, and where we have I remember, people go back as far as the 85-86 season. We almost got relegated the season afterwards because we didn't build on that. And, you felt we could have built on it this year, but nah. Just like our dreams, they fade and die, didn't it?
Yep. It's very West Ham, isn't it? Win that trophy, and as a fan base, we just do that whole, it's going to happen. We're going to build on this. Lose your best player. You got the money there. And then, what are we like? 3 weeks removed from he who should not be named leaving the club.
We're still waiting for bloody what's his face. It's been 10 days since.
How can that take so long? By the way,
but wasn't he in the Euro? Wasn't he away with the Euro, the under 19 Euro under 19s or something like that? Was there a tournament?
Even so, like, would it really take that long? We spoke about Tonali. They flew out. They flew him to a different country to get the medical done. So he was on his holiday with his missus, but
it's because we'll probably sign him on Tuesday because it'll be the 1st of August. Saves another month on the old wages, isn't it?
And
he'll reveal
the third kit, won't he?
Yeah, it'll be the third kit.
Have it all lined up.
The crazy third kit. I mean, Jonathan Tar's one, which makes me laugh. He's literally said, I want to go to the Premier League. And it's like fucking 15-16 million pounds. Just buy him.
It's literally like a few million less than you originally bid for Harry Maguire. Wants the move, and if anyone knows about him, Steidten does.
Exactly, because he's worked with him. And that's the thing.
He's capable as well.
Yeah, he's huge. He's 6'5". He's 27, so he's the same age as Zuma and Aged, and he's that third sort of decent centre back we need. So if Aged gets injured, there is the option to put Oggy in, or you can put Jonathan in potentially, although he's more right-footed. Same as Zuma. Zuma, you're going to get 20 games out of him. For the other 20 odd games, Jonathan Tar could come in. He knows Tilo Kira as well. They're older. They're obviously international buddies as well. 17 appearances and I think 17 caps for Germany. Absolutely. And I've got the thumbnail ready. Ta-da! That's it.
But you'll be held on to that thumbnail for 3 weeks
till January. Yeah.
I've got a feeling all our deals are going to go through the week of deadline.
You know they are. You know they are. You just know it's going to happen. And it's just going to be, like, I mean, I've done it before. I think was it 2 years ago? Might have been two, maybe January, but one. Because obviously I'm just down the road. I drove to the what's name? I drove to the training ground on transfer deadline day in the evening and did a thing outside. All the lights are off. There was no Sky Sports. No one fucking gave a shit. But this year it's going to be fucking so busy down there. I think it's going to be crazy. But all we'll do is we're paying overprice everything. Same as it always happens, mate. Yeah. Same as always happens. Absolutely crazy times. But that's why we love it, because it keeps us interested in going on with West Ham, doesn't it? It'd be boring. It'd be boring if we did all our stuff straight away and we'd have a well-oiled machine and we knew exactly the team and we had options and different ways we can change the dynamics. It'd be boring, wouldn't it? What are we going to talk about?
Well, we'd just be sitting here talking about how good the new signings are.
We'd just be talking about hair transplants again.
Yeah. 17 grand ones. I can't believe we paid that for his hair.
17 grand. Yeah, as I said, I think about 4 or 5. About 4 or 5 grand. But anyway. So Anton's pissing off. He says he's on holiday, right? But he's going to go. He's going to London. The bright lights of London.
Oh,
He'll
yeah,
be
no,
there.
he spoke to me about it because he's going to the what's name mill, isn't he?
Yes, he is. He's going to that mill for his. I suggested to Mrs. Anton that'd be a nice present for him for his birthday. Considering the one I bought him, the original one, is. And also, if anyone wants a Canning Town Len print of Declan Rice holding the cup, let me know. I bought one off Len. Bless, like I thought it would look really nice on his wall, but it's the fucking Declan Rice does go. Oh, didn't think about that, but I did buy him a ticket to go to the Canio night that Ian's putting on. So there we go. There we go. So yeah, so it's a holiday, and you live in Scotland. Some might say another country. It is indeed. It is indeed. Right. Well, I think it's time to go to bed. Mrs. Budden's not well, so she'll be coughing all night. So I'll get no sleep as usual. And yeah, hopefully we'll see what happens in the morning. Innit? We'll see what happens.
Yes. We'll see which Phantom bid goes in tomorrow, mate.
I'm going to say I reckon there's going to be a lot of interest around. I reckon the Divock Origi stuff's going to take up pace tomorrow.
Yeah, I reckon the Italian media will talk a bit more about Scamacca going to Roma as well.
Because apparently he's flown into London today, Divock Origi. So there we go.
Okay.
So if you're new, don't forget to give it a like, comment, share, all that good stuff. And until next time, take care, stay safe, stay warm, stable. Come on, you Irons. And myself and Dan will see you very, very soon. Bye-bye.